What is up, guys? It's Doodoo Poker here, back for another video. Today we are going to be talking about button versus big blind, us in the big blind facing a triple barrel. So we decide to call pre-flop. I'm going to follow along in GTO Wizard, and I'm going to follow along with the MDA as well. So we are in the big blind with 10 of clubs, 8 of spades. My opponent, who is on the button, is a reg, and he opens up min raise. Now let's quickly go over pre-flop. We know 10-8 off is mixed versus a 2.5x raise, so versus a min raise we always call. So the flop comes 10 of hearts, 9 of spades, 3 of clubs. Follow along here. Oops. Follow along here. So the flop comes 10 of hearts, 9 of spades, 3 of clubs. My opponent decides to bet bigger on the flop. So he bets $6 into $9. So let's say he used the bet 70 bet sizing. Let's take a peek at MDA for this spot. What do we see from the field as the single raise pot in position pre-flop raiser, button versus big blind? We see that they are over c-betting in the aggregate, 67% on the high side of GTO, or overdoing it a bit. But what we notice here is that when they bet small on the flop, they are on the high side of GTO to folding. That incentivizes us to check raise versus a small sizing. But when they bet bigger on the flop, they fold less. So we are not incentivized to check raise. So what I'm going to do here is, instead of using all these different sizings on the flop, I'm going to go into the AI and I'm going to choose exact sizings for my villain. So he bet 2/3 pot. With my 10-8 off, nothing else to do except call. Let's follow along here as well. So 5 of diamonds on the turn. Now my opponent does something that the better regs know what to do. They overbet turn. So here we know, in theory, this is an overbet spot. So he bets, let's see how much he bets. He bets 28 into 21. So let's do the math. 28 divided by 21. He's betting 133% pot. So I put 133% pot here, and now we have to make a decision. We see from a solver that 10-8 off is mixed, but let's look at MDA for this spot. Let's take a peek at bet 70 bet. What do we see from the frequencies? We see that bet 70 bet is over double barreled. So what that means is we should be calling here, not just on this data point, but on the river data point as well. Since we have MDA for the triple barrel line, and we also have MDA filters for exact sizing, we need to be calling all of our 0 EV continues. So that's what we do in game. We decide to call. Now the river is where it gets fun. The river is an ace of clubs. Now I check to my opponent. I'm really hoping he checks back, but he does not oblige. What he does is jam all in. He jams all in on the ace of clubs. Now, as you can see here, I called, but we have to understand why I called. Let's take a peek at the solver, and then we'll look at MDA. So here, we're on the river. My opponent jams all in. I have 10-8 off. As we see here, a solver mostly folds. We should not do this. Why is that? Let's look at some MDA data. We see from the MDA, the field as a single raise pot in position pre-flop raiser, when they bet 70 on the flop, they are over bluffing on the river. Now, in game, he used 200% sizing. The highest we have here is 150. But what do we notice? We notice they are bluffing too much, 41 week to 38 week. Okay? But let's go to exact sizing and filters. So I'm going to go to hand to note, and we're going to take a look at bet 70 bet bet. What do you notice? Let's first of all, let's calculate what his sizing was on the river. We know the pot is $77. The effective stack is my stack, which is 162. So what's 162 divided by 77? 210% pot. So he bets 210% pot. Okay, so here we go to MDA. We see 210% pot over huge sample sizes. What should this number be? Well, it's 45 week here, but we need our calculator. So here, what we do is we take 210, then you add 210, and then you add 100. So it's 210 divided by 520. It should be 40%. This is what the theoretical number should be. It should be 40% bluffs. He has 45% bluffs, so we know he's over bluffing by 5%. But we're not done yet. We have to look at filters. So we know the aggregate is 29 week. Let's go to the filters. What do we see on river ace? River overcard on 10 high board. 33 week. What was the aggregate? Remember, the aggregate is 29 week. So that's a good data point to call. What else do we see? 10 high board, 32 week, or 10 high flop rather, 32 week. Another good data point to call. So we have two good data points to call with the ace on the river and the 10 high flop. So what we do is we put that all together, and we know it's 0 EV in a solver, and we make the call. Now, once we understand the MDA and we understand sizing and filters, we become bulletproof versus this bluff. Because one, we know he's over bluffing by 5% in the jam sizing, 210%. We also know the 10 high flop is a good data point to call, and the ace on the river is a good data point to call. So we combine those three things, and we can use MDA to outperform what is mostly a fold in a solver. All right, guys. If you enjoyed this type of content, please give me a like. Please give me a subscribe. It's going to be a new video every single day, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.